I am coming to you guys with an awesome guest who I think she's amazing in a lot of ways, and we're going to get into that. But before I actually go ahead and formally introduce you, I wanted to ask. I don't know how many people have seen the movie The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet, where they exchange homes for the holidays so that they could each go away on a vacation. Like they both need a getaway. It's a romantic comedy. So in the end, everybody, like, they both end up finding the loves of their lives in these new destinations. But in the movie, their exchange of homes is a bit informal, right? Like it's not a whole like process. They don't really go into it, but it's pretty informal. Today, though, you can do the same thing. There are several online platforms that allow you to do this with people all over the world for just a low yearly fee. So they're basically like the matchmakers of vacation homes or vacation getaways, I guess is the best way to say it. So today I want to introduce you to Jenny Rosenblit, who is an old colleague and friend of mine from my days back in advertising. And I remember one day we were sitting in an office and we were kind of exchanging stories and chatting about our travels. And she shared with me that her and her family are able to go away for extended period of times across Europe into different countries at a substantial cost savings through these home exchange programs. And I was so fascinated and intrigued by it. And it's one of those memories that has just kind of stuck with me through the years. And so now that I'm on this journey and I have this travel business, I thought she'd be the perfect guest to share this information with you guys. So as you all know, like I'm a travel advisor, and I'm sure some people are probably wondering, like, why would you be promoting this, right? It kind of goes against what most people think travel advisors do. But I think I want to share this because my goal is to share different ways and options for people to get out there and see the world, experience the world, and learn about new cultures. Hence the advisor in my title. Like this is not for me, it's not about being just being transactional. So if this method makes it easier for some of you to be able to do this, right? If it kind of turns on a light bulb and says, wait a second, I might be able to do this, then I've achieved my goal. It's not always about making money. It's about kind of sharing information. So as someone who's done this for years now, I thought Jenny would be, like I said, the perfect person to interview. She's going to share a little bit of it with us about home exchange, how it works, how it offers a more culturally immersive experience compared to like an Airbnb or a vacation home rental, and then some other things as well. I don't want to like give it all away. I'm going to let her, share her genius. So thank you, Jenny, for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so thrilled to share this.
Always happy.
I'm so excited. Sorry for the long intro.
Anytime that I can with you.
I appreciate it.
But yes, so this has been, we've spent about 8 years traveling via home exchange, and it's been really a transformational journey for us as a family and allowing us to continue some of the things that we love, which is traveling, and do so on a budget that we have. We are a family of 2 kids, and 2 kids in New York are costly business. So it makes it really impossible, and it would have been impossible to travel as we were used to traveling. So when my youngest was born, which was 8 years ago, I thought, how can we continue maintaining some of the things that we love without some of the things that we dislike, which is exuberant cost. And I started looking of different ways, and I stumbled upon a home exchange. That's the name of the platform. And that is the whole premise. Home exchange has been around for about 70 years. And it used to be people were exchanging books and people would write letters to each other. So it was all very romantic. And there was a lot of teachers that would do that because they would do that for the whole summer. And they would be able to immerse themselves in different places and maintain the relationship. And that was the premise of the platform. But my number one objective was, how do I resolve this issue? And we did. Our first home exchange was in Spain, and we had no idea what to do. But we wound up meeting people on, then it was Skype, now it's Zoom. and talking to them. So we thought the exchange might work out, and we were at sea. It was amazing. We spent a month, all funny, lots of funny adventures. But we've been to Spain through this program about 4 times, I want to say. We've been across Spain. And I was joking with my husband that we could qualify for citizenship. That's how many times we've been there. We've been to Italy once, twice. We've been to France. We've traveled around US. And that's not only about cost savings now, although cost savings are always important, but it's about feeling yourselves like a local no matter where you go. So walking in someone else's shoes and being, trying someone else's life for a change.
So for people who are not familiar with this concept, so can you just kind of briefly go through, like, what does that process look like when you decide, okay, I want to go away? Do you choose the country? Like, is it broken up by countries on the platform? Like, what's that process look like?
So my process, which is really different, we live in New York City. And New York City used to be, and I think it still is a hot place to be. And based on requests, people still want to come from all over the world. So as hotel prices are just unaffordable, and especially if you have a family, it's $1,200 a night, which is insane for 2 rooms. And plus you don't have a kitchen, so it becomes this unaffordable thing. So people write from all over the world, and you get to see some incredible properties in some incredible places, and you say, oh, well, I've never been to Bali, maybe I should go. Then let me look at tickets. So it's everything is done by chance, but there's an ability to look by anything, by the sea, by the mountains, by countries. There's an ability that you can parse it no matter which way possible. So if you have a family commitment and you need to go to a certain city, you can just Google that city or home exchange that city, and then you'll be able to see all the properties there. And within that, each of the properties, you put the time slot that is available. And if that time slot matches your time slot, you can begin to write and open up a conversations. And people know that they need to get back to you, but because everyone is waiting. And at times, I've been lax about that in the past 2 weeks, but I need to catch up on all the requests that are coming my way.
Okay.
And no matter where you are, you might think you might not be in the hot city. People want to try a different life in America and elsewhere that they live. People come for all kinds of reasons. So put yourself out there.
So 2 questions, I guess. One is, so there is this interaction that happens with your potential home exchange contact that happens prior to anybody actually traveling, right? So you do get to talk online, you do get to kind of feel the people out, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We speak a couple of times.
Okay.
So we speak via home exchange platform, then we schedule a conversation on Skype or whichever way possible, just to view them on Zoom, see the property on Zoom, show them what we have. Because a lot of the times in New York City, we feel bad about our apartments. Those are not giant properties that we're exchanging. And at times, if you're exchanging with someone else's house in France and in Spain, those are giant places, 5-bedroom apartments with yards and cars. And you say, let me just show you what you're getting. And everyone says, oh, it's just perfect. It's wonderful. But at times you say, this is what you're going to get. And this is going to be loud. It's in New York City. So let me outline some of the things that you're getting yourself into.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead.
No. You go ahead if you were going to add more to that.
But we do. And then once you make a decision that this is it, Home Exchange has this contract policy. So you sign a contract. It's not a binding contract. There's no way if something happens that like COVID, you can't do anything about it. But it's a more of a handshake that happens on Home Exchange, a contract that happens. After that, once that contract happens, we usually time it to the same day that we buy tickets. So we buy tickets, send it to someone else, and they buy tickets as well. So we time it to the same day, and we know the tickets have been bought. So we feel secure that this is going on. Then we have a couple of check-ins before we go, and we continue checking in as we're there. Is everything all right? How did you get? So it becomes less of a transaction and more of a friend conversation. And it continues on after we leave the place. You leave the place almost as if, you're leaving it for a family member, not an Airbnb.
Okay. And then you mentioned, which I'm glad you did because I wanted to ask you this. You mentioned that it doesn't necessarily need to be tied to like a big city, because your first thought is like, if you live in the suburbs or rural America, you might be like, well, I don't live in New York City, I don't live in LA, I don't live in Miami, like I don't live in any of these popular cities that you just imagine foreigners want to go to, right? So I guess my question is, do you like some in the suburbs, maybe like the suburbs of New York, or in more rural America, this is a platform that could potentially work for them as well?
Absolutely. People just want to live a different life. People just want to try it out. And plus, you don't know what is bringing a person in. So maybe it is someone that they love is going to college nearby, or they want to see a family member that they have not seen, or there's a wedding. People have different reasons for being. There was a couple of people that wrote to me, I need to be in New York City because a family member is graduating. I need to be in New York City because of someone else is getting treatment in a hospital nearby. It all varies.
Okay. All right. And then like I think about like families who live in the Orlando area, like this would be amazing for them, because think about how many people want to come to Disney World, right? Like now all of a sudden, I mean, Disney World's not cheap, right? By itself. I mean, forget just flights and accommodations. You're like a day pass to Disney World is like $200 something per person. And I think that's the Florida resident rate. I don't even know that that's like for people from out of state. So I just think of like a place like Orlando, which has a huge suburb, like they have a lot of suburb communities around. This would be like a great platform for people.
Yeah, and people don't want to feel like tourists. I think that's the number one driver. You want to feel, if you're coming in, you want to feel like a local for a little while. You don't want to be tricked into deals that you shouldn't have. You want to eat like a local. You want to find some good food. So you don't want to be in Times Square. You want to be in places where locals live and eat and just survive.
So you mentioned to me that in some of these exchanges, you've gotten more than just accommodations. Like you've gotten a car to use while you're there. Is that's just part of something, like some people just kind of throw that in? Is that standard? Like, how does that work?
It depends. In New York City, obviously, we don't have a car. So we ask people if car is part of the exchange. And most of the time it is. I think we've only had one exchange without the car. And that provides, so on average, it provides an enormous cost savings. Not only, we usually travel for a month, which is a humongous luxury, and I get to work remotely, and my husband can work remotely, but we are there. So we save about $3,000 to $4,000 on housing during that time because we're traveling like that. And plus, nowadays with cars costing what they cost, it's about another $1,200 for the car that you save in addition to it. You get a car, some of the cars are used. Most of the time they're awesome cars. And most of the time what's interesting is you get someone meets you in the airport with that car. So there's a whole white glove service that you would never have any other time. And you might feel like a local, but you don't feel uncomfortable about getting into a new place because someone else who's a local is meeting you and almost bringing you into the fold.
Okay. And then you mentioned like things where you've been invited to like family events, like while you were, family events of the people who own the location, right? So, I mean, that just adds to that whole local, like that immersive experience even more.
Yeah, the beauty of it is you get to inherit not only the property and the car, you at times get to inherit family events, if you choose to, friends. So if you feel uncomfortable or if you feel open to it, people say, well, my next door neighbor would love to invite you for dinner. Let me know if you want to go and I can connect you. And you say, sure, I'd like to go. And some of the connections have been incredible. Like in France, we were in Paris staying in the 20th arrondissement, and the person we were swapping with said, my next door neighbor will have the keys, but once you pick up the keys, you meet this wonderful person, and they say, well, if you're free for today for dinner, why don't you come? And you meet them, and they turn out to be this, opera producer that lives this incredible life, and you get to learn it. And eat the most amazing food and spend time with them. And then the next day they say, why don't you come with us if you want to, come with us, we'll show you the flea market, or we'll show you places that you would never know about in Paris unless you live in Paris, or show you around different places around Paris. And that happened to us in France, that happened to us in Italy. It was just incredible things that people open up their homes, and friends open up their homes because they want to know you, they want to practice their English, and they just want a friend.
Yeah, that is the one.
Yeah,
I have learned, like, as I travel around the world, a lot of people they love sitting down and talking with you because and they always say, like, it's good, I get to practice my English. I love that. I love it. And you were sharing with me about this whole in Spain, how you got invited to a paella, like a whole like feast of a paella and stuff.
Yeah. No. I think what this allows us to do is realize that people, even if they don't speak your language, even if they live a completely different life, there's a lot of kindness that exists and a lot of warmth that exists. And you might not necessarily speak the language, and they might not necessarily speak your language. But the first time we went to Spain, I'll tell you a little anecdote. We got a car from the home exchange, met the people. They started flying to New York. We drove. My youngest daughter gets really car sick, so we get lost in the middle and no gas, and the directions are written so we can't really follow it. So in the development, we find a house and we think this is the house that we need to come to. And both of my daughters run out and start throwing up all over someone else's lawn. And we're both mortified, and just you have no idea what to do. And this older Spanish couple comes out, and we're in about an hour and a half from Barcelona. It's this place called Calafat by Patagonia, and they come out, and we ask, we're just mortified, where can we find it? And the younger couple comes out that speaks English, and they say, oh, we'll take you. And the older couple takes Nina, that is covered in vomit, which is my younger daughter, and say, let me take her. I was like, no, you don't want to take her. She's disgusting. She's covered in vomit. And they're like, no, we love little kids. And she takes it from me. And as both of us are trying to clean their beautiful lawn, then they take us to the place. And then they say, come to us tomorrow for dinner. It seems like you need the dinner. And then we became friends with them. I still write to them every month. So their parents would come and say, my dad cooks this incredible paella. He does not speak English, so it's a lot of, thank you so much. This is incredible. This is unbelievable. And the kids, they hug the kids hug them. It's incredible. You just get to see that people in general are really wonderful and warm. If they speak your language, great. If they don't speak your language, great.
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel like the language helps in certain aspects, but for the most part, you can kind of pick up on, what the sentiment is, or, what they're trying to express in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I think with the language, right, English has become, I think even in the 8 years since we traveled, it's become the lingua franca. Everyone who is younger than 30 speaks English.
Yeah. You find more and more people worldwide that are speaking English. So, or even if they're not fluent in it, they know enough where they can communicate with you. So I know you mentioned home exchange, but I know that over the years, there's a bunch that have kind of popped up. Have you used any other platforms, or do you just use home exchange?
No, I hear home exchange is one of the oldest platforms, and it's the one that has the most homes from what I know. There are two others. I forget their names.
Well, now there's a whole bunch because I was looking, there's Home for Swap,
Mm.
there's Love Home Swap, there's one now that's kind of more focused on driving eco-friendly type stays. So there's Green Theme International, there's HomeLink, there's Home Sweet Home. They're like popping up all over the place.
They're awesome. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard about HomeLink. I think HomeLink is far smaller, so you get less options. Home Exchange is an older, established platform. They have some form of communication. You're able to look on the map how close it is to the ocean or the sea or whatever you're trying to be close to. So it has some of the convenience factors, but to be frank, I've not tried others.
Okay.
And the subscription rate for Home Exchange is, I think, about $149. And that is the best $149 that I spend because I think I get so much out of it.
Yeah, it's like, hello, I'm saving $4,000 on my family vacation for $149. It's a steal. Like, well, why would you not? For those who are watching, I will actually post links to all of the platforms that I just mentioned, including Home Exchange. So I'll include those in the comments so you guys always can go and kind of click. So don't worry about writing them down. I will share them with you guys. So I know I had some questions, but you answered some of them. So, so when you initially decided to do this, did you have any like concerns that over the years have kind of dissipated, or you feel like, oh my God, why was I worried about that? And if so, what were they?
Each of us have our lives, from documents to cleaning up everything. So in the beginning, it would take me a lot longer to kind of clean the apartment of all personal things and put them all in storage. And storage is here, so we don't drive them to storage, but just put them away so people are not interacting with your personal things. They don't want to interact with your personal things, as we don't want to interact with documents and things that are private, your jewelry boxes. So all the things like that are taken and put into storage and are out of people's way. You feel safer, they feel safer. So it used to take me a lot of time. Now it takes me, less than 2 days to fully clean it up. We leave closets empty, and put all the things that we have away. So, and that becomes a habit. So it's great for you because it allows me to clean out the closet every 6 months, because we tried to exchange before COVID every 6 months. So every 6 months there's 10 donation bags of all the things that you thought you needed, you really didn't need. So it allows you to purge. But it's a big thing for those of us that are living in small spaces. If you're living in a big space, it's not a big issue at all. You probably have a separate room that you can lock and not ever touch.
Okay. All right. And so how many countries total have you done this in now?
So funny enough, we have not done it. We've done a couple of places in US, but I think so. Oh, here's a little wonderful anecdote. This summer, we've done a home exchange, and it was my mom's 75th birthday, and it was in Boston. And my sister and I wanted to come together and rent this house. Houses on Airbnb were $1,000 a night.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Which was insane.
But initially started off as being like a cost-effective way of travel, has quickly
$1,000 a night, and it was my mom's 75th. So I wrote on a home exchange platform 5 days before, when I realized we can't afford to. I mean, we can afford, but it would be stupid. And the hotels were $250 a night. We needed more rooms. It was just not good. So we wanted to bring ourselves together. And we found this house in Brookline. And this woman just said, sure, take it. We might have a home exchange with you later on. And this house that we've got ourselves was this 18th century house in the middle of Brookline, walkable. And it was a 6-bedroom house. That was this old New England house, and we've stayed there for 3 days, my sister and I and all her kids and our kids. So it was a place to congregate. There was a huge yard for barbecuing, and it was in the middle of the city. So such a gem. And at no cost, and we felt like we were home.
So did she come to New York or no? She just was like, no
She
worries.
did not. So Home Exchange has this interesting other thing called guest points, and it will be you accumulate funny money, guest points money, and
Yeah.
you are able to use it anywhere else that takes home guest points, and that allows you to travel when you cannot have a reciprocal home exchange.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Well, that's actually good because that makes sense. Like if you have dates that don't necessarily work for other people, like you have another option instead of just having to go find like a hotel or something like that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I know we had a whole conversation about how this lends to being much more culturally immersive than like an Airbnb rental or a vacation home rental. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit for people who might be watching and want to understand like why you've come to that conclusion?
Well, it is this little, there's some voyeurism here because you get to live in someone else's home that is lives and most of the time, was born somewhere else and has a different life. So you're surrounded by someone else's life. You're surrounded by someone else's friends, someone else's recommendations. So they give you, as we usually do it, they give you recommendations on local places to go, local places to eat, local places to shop, local friends to see. So you really get to walk in someone else's shoes and really understand what life is like. And a lot of the times we've had a chance to interact with the families before they leave, and they host you for dinner, and you tell them about your issues, they tell you about their issues with the countries of choice, because you say, oh, but you guys live such a good life, this is incredible, you have free healthcare and free education. They say, oh, let us tell you a little bit
like the reality of things, right?
The reality of things. Yeah. The reality of things. But on just everyday level, you get to eat like a local, you get to travel like a local, you get to go to beaches that the locals go to, so you don't fall into touristy traps.
Okay. No, I like that.
Yeah, you get to practice your language if you choose to. There's a lot of options.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds awesome. So Jenny and I were talking and she's like, you need to do this. I was like, oh, I plan on doing it. It's funny because I kind of fell into this trap when we first talked about it years ago and I was in New York. My initial thought was like, well, I live outside of New York City. Like who's going to want to come and stay outside of New York City? So I never did it. But now that I live here in Miami and I live on the beach, like, hello, it's like, why not? So definitely something I'm going to explore. Have you had any negative experiences? I just want to get real about like, yeah. Hey, it sounds great, but So
most of the time, 95% the experiences have been positive, and the experiences are just so positive that it almost is as if a family member is staying. They would leave gifts for your kids, you leave gifts for their kids, you leave a full fridge, they leave a full fridge. So whenever someone else comes in, it feels like you're home. And you say, what do you want to eat? What do you want to? You either leave a gift certificate to a place that they can go, and they do the same. I think our first home exchange, we did not specify some of the rules of the home. Now we do. We did not specify no smoking in the apartment, so we came in and there was the smell of smoke, and that was a little gross. So we've learned that lesson. Now we specify there's no smoking in the apartment, there's no parties in the apartment, so you have to be respectful and treat it as if it's your own home. But most of the time has never been an issue except that one time.
Does home exchange, I don't know about the other, does home exchange monitor that? Like if you have, let's say somebody doesn't follow your rules, like is there a place do you review each other? Like does that work the same?
You do review each other. You do review each other. You review the apartment very much similar to what Airbnb does for cleanliness, for communication, for everything. So there's and people read those reviews like hawks.
I'm sure.
So everyone looks at what was the communication like, what was the cleanliness like, what are some of the issues that you've had there with the apartment or the property. And one funny issue is we were in Andalusia in August and did not ask, our fault, did not ask a simple question of, do you have air conditioning? And we came in, and they were wonderful, just wonderful guys, and wonderful family. But we did not ask about air conditioning, and it was super hot. It was just really, really, really hot to be in there. So ask questions that are important to you. We now ask about air conditioning. We now ask about car. We now ask about smoking. So it's lessons learned. And then they probably will do the same thing. Is it noisy outside? Yes, it is. You live on First Avenue for us. It will be noisy.
Yeah.
And so you will probably not be able to sleep in a while.
Well, especially if you're not I know, I lived in New York City, and after a while, that noise becomes background. You don't even think about it anymore. But for somebody who's never been there, it's probably like, whoa, how do these people live with the constant traffic? So, I guess my other question would be is there any other advice you would give to somebody who's looking to start doing this, aside from, know what's important to you, make sure you have a list of those questions to ask other people. What are your rules? Is there anything else that anyone who's thinking about doing this should really kind of consider in the process?
Yeah, from when I speak to friends, I always am surprised that not more people sign up, and people are attached to their things, and they're really afraid of whether this piano will get harmed or the sofa will get stained. I say just take it easy. Things we did not have stains, but if you do, it's all right. There are benefits out of it that come out, so be less attached to some of the things that you have. They'll be fine. They'll be perfectly fine without you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only thing that really stops people. How will my things do? How long does it take to clean up? You'll get into a process of things. You'll get into a swing of things. Just try it.
Yeah, I think there's probably a learning curve, right? Just like with anything, everybody's very different in terms of what they require, right? Certain amenities that they require and so forth. And I think as you do it more and more, you'll start to kind of figure out, okay, these are negotiables, these are non-negotiables for me, and so forth. And it sounds like the community is one that it's not as how do I say this? Airbnb to me is very transactional, right? You pick a house. There isn't a lot of other than if you're asking questions to your host, there really isn't a lot of engagement beforehand. You might ask a question, the person will get back to you. I try to sometimes ask questions, but the answers I get back, they're very short. They're like, okay, here's what you need, and that's it. This sounds to me like there's a lot more engagement that goes on pre, during, and then even post, right? It just seems like more of a community kind of environment.
Definitely is. Yeah, I think that's a really great difference that it brings. It is a lasting community. So if you love a property, like we've loved a property in Italy, and we would say, if you ever want to come back, we'd love to. So we constantly, check in on that property and that place. So if you ever want to come to New York, you let us know. And they say, not this year because someone else, someone is not feeling well, but maybe next year we'd love to go back to New York. Yeah. So it's a community that you continue checking in, you continue learning in. And that same property, when we came in, I would see some of the things that the children would do, and I would ask them, tell me, how do they learn this? And there would be a whole exchange of ideas, not only about the place, but about child rearing, about fashion, you name it, about art. What do they like? What would they recommend? What places to go? So it's a continuous conversation.
I also love that you brought up the fact that you can do this even here in the United States. It doesn't necessarily need to be that you're going overseas. Absolutely. But if you're trying, maybe you're going to California for a week, and you can exchange with someone in California. So that way, you don't have to worry about finding a place to stay, across the country or whatever.
Yeah, and especially with COVID, this is becoming, people are traveling locally, and how local travel is now so expensive. As I was saying, that Boston property, the Airbnbs have gone through the roof for just cities and local locations because everyone wants to travel locally.
Right.
So whether you want to go to Utah, Arizona, Grand Canyon, you can easily do that.
That's awesome. I think, it's just another way of, again, like I was saying, for me, it's about sharing different ways to help get people out there. And if this is one way that, I mean, not everybody has the same finances, not everybody can afford to, you have a family of five. A family of five is expensive. It's not cheap, So to get out and to see the world. And for me, I feel like for your kids, this is a blessing because now, they're getting to see all of these places early on in their life. And now travel becomes something that's a part of them versus kind of experiencing that later in life. They get to start experiencing it sooner. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. And, they want to, we were in Paris this time around and my oldest one said, can we meet with Florence? That's the couple we met the other time and invite them to dinner. And we didn't get a chance, but hopefully next year.
So is there do you have a dream destination you haven't been to yet, but it's on your list and you need to go to it before, soon?
Soon?
Yeah. Well, not soon, maybe at some point, that this is a must destination.
No, I don't, just because every year we kind of decide what is good at that moment. And now what I realize is not every shiny object is a shiny object for you right now. Whether you want to go to Bali, but the flight might be 17 hours, so maybe you really don't want to go to Bali at this moment. And maybe a shorter flight would be something that is worthwhile. So no, we'll see what the next year brings. I think next summer we'll try to go to Italy again and explore different parts of Italy, but maybe we'll go back to Spain. Who knows?
And one thing I'll note for anybody who wants to kind of dibble and dabble in this and kind of check it out, right now, because of COVID and restrictions and country restrictions, Jenny was sharing with me that she went away this summer. She wasn't able to utilize this platform because right now, America or the United States is not really allowing Europeans in. So it doesn't really.
But exactly. But let me tell you how good the community is. So when we learned about the travel rules, we had a home exchange set up in Normandy. And there was a whole house that the family converted to a hotel, from hotel to a house. And it was a big family and they wanted to come to New York and they had a guest house. So we said, look, they're like, it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to travel. US is not allowing us. But you guys are welcome to come and stay at our guest house with us. As we stay in our main house, stay in our guest house, please come. So they were willing to accommodate, and that was the same family. We were supposed to have an exchange last year, and they called us during the height of COVID, and they said, if you're able to come, just come and spend time with us in our guest house, because it seems like things are really bad in New York City. We would love to help. So that's what the community is all about. So we were able to come, but we chose not to take them up on the very generous offer.
That's very nice. I mean, I just goes to show people are inherently good. Most people are inherently good. It's not, so.
And I think that's what travel really shows you, right? People are good in every place. They're bad people everywhere, but they're not a majority. They're a small minority.
Okay, so I know we've been on now for 45 minutes. I guess my one last question for you would be, if you had one piece of general travel advice that you would share with the group, what would that be?
I say, do not be afraid. We put our fears and our own issues. I don't speak the language. I will feel awkward. I will feel like an outsider. We put our own kind of inferiority complexes into travel. And I say, just go with it. It's like jumping off the cliff, and you realize eventually you'll be fine. You're fine traveling in a foreign country. Just put security first, so you feel comfortable. But once you feel comfortable, you'll find your way. and you'll find your way, and you will feel awkward, and that's the whole idea of travel. You will not be understood, but good people will rescue you.
So, Jenny, I know usually if it's somebody who has a business, I'm like, so where can people find you? But if somebody wanted to connect with you, how could they connect with you on social media?
On social media. So funny enough, about 6 years ago, I left Facebook because I realized I was spending so much time that it was sucking my life out. So I'm on LinkedIn. I am on email. I am pretty much there. That's it. LinkedIn and email. I try to limit my social media. I have a private Instagram account, but it is, for posting
It's for
pictures
your
of
family.
kids. Yeah, and for you, Emeralds, pretty much.
If you want, you can look up Jenny Rosenblit on Rozenblit on LinkedIn if you wanted to connect with
Yeah,
her.
and ask me questions, or shoot Emeralds questions. I'd be happy to connect and walk you through some of the issues that you might be feeling.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I think that's it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm sure you have other things to do. So I I appreciate you sharing this with us. I feel like it's such valuable information, and I'm actually surprised that more people don't do this as well. So I think it's great to kind of just share it.
So honestly, I think fewer Americans do it, but Americans are jumping into it now just because there's a desire for traveling. A lot of Europeans do it.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of Europeans, funny enough, you realize that they have a socialist country, but somehow they have 2 or 3 family homes that they have across countries, and you say, how is that possible?
I also think Europeans are much more open to, for us, this is kind of like, I will say this. I think Airbnb kind of made us a little bit more comfortable with this idea, right? Of like stepping into somebody else's home, not exactly in the same way as home exchange does. So maybe this is the next kind of phase of that, right? Like people start to realize as Airbnb prices go up and up, maybe now this is more of like, hey, let's consider this, because I think, and we talked about this, what this does that Airbnb doesn't is create those connections, right? That can last you forever, right? If you really wanted to. So
yeah,
maybe this is the next phase of that.
I hope so. I think we need to be closer as opposed to more remote, and it does allow you to walk in someone else's shoes and really try someone else's life, and then you'll judge them less.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Less judgment. So, all right, Jenny, thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really appreciate it. It was
Marlis, always a pleasure.
And we'll be in touch because we're connected. So, like she said, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach, to let me know, and I'm always happy to ask. Or, like we said, you can reach out to Jenny on LinkedIn. But have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch.
See you later.
Bye, love.
Bye.
Click the subscribe button to get notified when we post more videos featuring other cultural tour experiences from around the world and additional travel-related content.